Welcome to Bear Lifestyle, the podcast where we speak up and speak out about all taboo topics and make them normal and acceptable. You are invited to be curious, to try something new, and stay open to provocative perspectives. I'm your host, Simona Spark, a best-selling author, international speaker, transformational coach, and so many other things. Beyond anything else, I'm a woman who stopped following other people's rules and started creating my own. In this space, we are going to get naked by stripping away insecurities, self-judgments, and all kinds of limitations so we can reach in for the essence of who we really are, Bear. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving. Thanks for listening. All right, let's do it. Let's celebrate, celebrate. Everybody here celebrating myself and celebrating Abigail. Welcome back, everyone, and welcome back, girlfriend. Welcome back, Abigail.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm so excited.
Yes. I see in the future that I'm gonna have you more than once.
I honor that.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to congratulate you for launching your Open Heart and Unleashed Heart documentary the other day. And for all of our audience, please open the description. I have the link there to go and watch it. Thank you for launching that, for making it public.
Thank you. It's been a journey, multiple years, but we even launched a first version of it and revamped it. So it's like so much heart into the Alchemizing Judgment documentary. And I'm so happy for it to be like public and on my YouTube channel for anybody to see.
Yes. It absolutely inspired me. And we had our private conversation about my desire of having my own documentary, about traveling the world and the experiences and cultures and such. And I cannot wait. And just watching yours with a little bit that I knew about you and your work and your journey, it was just like that energy of, well, of course,
Yep.
And it's no longer shocking as it is just, oh shit, this is what I want to do and it's doable. And thank you, Miss Abigail, for showing me that it's nothing outrageous and it just can be done.
Yeah. Thank you I love that reflection, because I think when we all start out, especially if you're starting as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as an author, right? It feels so new, because how many authors do you know? How many, it's sort of a different path to follow. And whatever that is for anybody, we feel like we're breaking the mold, but it's very possible. Like when I moved out to California, I realized, oh, everybody doesn't work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. That was a culture shock to me. And so to realize you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. And again, it's just available. You just proceed.
100%. So the reason that I invited you here today, besides the fact that we always have a juicy conversation and I could count on that no matter what.
Yes.
Is to tap into our creative energy, right? And it makes perfect sense that we are here now, especially after you launch that, because a lot of creativity goes into it. And what is really important, and once again, I want to invite everybody to take 30 minutes and go watch your documentary, is to see it's all of this in and out of what creativity is as we learn it, and what creativity is through a lens of one single person. Because creativity to me, it is very individual, So it took me, over 4 decades to accept that about myself, as what is creative to me does not have to look as it is for you, and own that.
Yes.
So I really want to hear your perspective on that bare creativity, and
Mhm.
how that ties in our femininity and our sensuality and our sexuality. And let's go as deeper as we want, for the lack of a
Yes.
better word.
First off, it just gave me goosebumps when you said like what we've been taught about creativity and then what it is for each individual person, because you're right. So many of us don't tap into our creative energy because we haven't been taught all the different ways that it shows up, all the different ways that it can look. People say, I'm not creative. I'm not a painter or a writer or a singer. And it's like, those are not the only three options. So let's start there, right? Like creativity can be in, I mean, every capacity, in language and cooking and any expression of you is a creative expression, right? Because you're being creative in the way that you express your energy. And something that I'd love to bring into the conversation is the idea or concept of sexual transmutation, right? Because our creative energy, our creative center is the womb for females, the gut for men, right? Like that sacral chakra, which is, so we've got it, just to give a quick rundown on chakras, right? Right, crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, and then sacral, and then root. So it's in that lower half, and it keeps us grounded to the planet. Our creative expression is life on earth, right? Like smelling, tasting, touching, seeing, sensing, feeling, that's all within the arts. It's all artistic and creative. And we think art and we think paintbrush and, canvas, and that's not it solely it. And especially in our feminine or masculine, I would love to also bring that in. But the idea that being creative and creatively expressed is arousing, it's inspiring, it's activating, it's amplifying, it's expansive. And so I write in Alchemizing Judgment, my third book, I talk about how I explain sexual transmutation, but I explain that we in grade school, middle school, high school, we're just left to our own devices to explore when we might be pregnant with a book. We might be, go ahead.
Well, you were allowed to your devices because you just a baby, an embryo. But
Yep.
people like us, old people back in time, we didn't even
Yeah.
have computers. So
Yes. Right.
we were led to our own imagination. And
Yes.
that sounds fantastic for most of us, but the problem with that back then was that we are not allowed to dream. So
Right.
that could be a totally different conversation. So let's get back to
Yes. No, that's perfect because your own imagination, and we don't have much imagination when we're young. We do. And then, but most of it's based on what we see. So a lot of it's actually based on our exposure. So our family dynamics, whatever. When we start to explore sex and sexuality, we're just out there again, left to ourselves and our imagination and what we think. And so we're not necessarily, our creative energy is not nurtured, harnessed, directed. We're usually expending that same energy because they're essentially one and the same. We're expending it sexually, and sometimes creatively, right? So we learn how to play an instrument, we learn how to write poetry. So, but in a younger years, and you're right about the age difference, right? We're in the age of information. We are in a digital age where people do have access. I have seen this little thing gives me access to so many different kinds of art and expression and contribution to the world. And what, how would we know we like woodworking or if unless we were ever exposed to it? I'm building out my van right now to live in it. It's such a creative expression. I do so much work writing, and all of my stuff is on the computer, even the documentary. It's beautiful, but it's digital. I want to build something that I can touch and live in and lay on and dance in. And but when we don't express ourselves creatively, we might either drain our energy, creative energy sexually, or we might be more sexual than we truly are because water always forces an outlet. That energy needs to go somewhere. And sometimes we use it, let's say, like in a dark, mm, shadow type of way, causing trouble. We're creative with our drama, with our gossip, with our money problems. We are very creative. It's just a matter of what are you creating?
Yep.
And is that what you want to be creating?
Yeah, I call them, and for those of you that been in my trainings in my space, I call them sophisticated sexy strategies,
Yes.
which because our brain, like we, as we evolve, we are getting just more creative and more creative, and everything. It's creativity, our self-sabotage, our what how we stop ourselves from going after we want, our fears, everything is creativity.
Yes.
And I love how you talk about like hands-on, kind of like activating all our senses, and all our senses, really of our channel of perception, right?
Yes.
Couple decades ago, I built a house, and without knowing, because I couldn't allow myself to be creative, because in my mind, creative people are actors and singers, and that's it.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
what I learned, right?
Yep.
But I wanted to be there with the team that was building my house, to every single step of the process. Like I did the cement, I did the bricks, I leveled them, I put the isolation stuff, right? And it just made me so happy. And people will say, oh, you're such a hard worker. And I like that badge, right? Like I'm a
Yep.
hard worker. I'm right here working with the man, right?
Yes.
But on the inside, I was like, this is so much fun. I'm actually loving this. Right? Was that internal satisfaction that I didn't allow myself to express it, because I knew for a fact that I'm going to be judged or simply not understood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So even to this day, like in my trainings, people are like, but I'm not creative. And I call myself like, I'm a math freak, meaning just number and very specific. And it's like, but the creativity that is required to see through a complex mathematical problem to find the solution, it dawned me a few years ago.
Yeah.
Not when I was competing to all the math competitions possible out there, right?
Yep. Yep.
So if we look at creativity as energy, maybe it will be easier for all of us to accept that we have it. And it's just a learning experience of how to massage it, how to work with it, how to understand it. And probably the harder part of that work is to let it be mine.
Yeah.
And let it be different than anybody else's.
I love the way that you're saying that. And my invitation to anybody who feels like this is really resonating, or this, like, yeah, I really do want to figure out my flavor of creativity. We would have to slow down significantly, or I don't want to say stop, but most of our lives are too loud and too busy that we are distracted from the whispers of our heart, right? Like the things that call us. I never, until age 29 or 28, I never said I will be an author. And I've written 9 books in 5 years. And so, like, I was going to be a gym teacher, I was going to be a basketball coach, I was going to be a mom and a wife, like, and maybe, and those, those things were great while I did them. And when I moved out to California, I'm from Indiana. When I moved out to California, my whole world opened up. First off, I met the ocean, like for real, because I spent more time there. And also I stopped drinking as much. I had more headspace. I wasn't surrounded by family 24/7, which I love my family, but at the same time, we naturally take on the personality of the culture we grow up in. So by switching cultures, and even across the states, we know how big, and first off, like every city and every state has its own culture and language.
Yeah,
It's very,
yeah,
you know, and so going to California, everything opened up for me. So I met more of me. So my question to someone listening and feeling inspired about their creativity is like, how well do you know you
hmm
really? Or
hmm
how well do you know who you've been conditioned to be? You
yeah,
know? And
yeah,
so I think that's a big piece of people finding out what their flavor of creativity is.
yeah. I love that. And there is a lot of, so many wisdom and teachings around. You don't need to go somewhere to find yourself. And
Yeah.
I personally contradict that.
Yeah.
I think that when we are so deep in where we are, we can't even see, and it is required go somewhere else so you could see that contrast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When I moved to United States, I thought, okay, I'm moving to America. That's
Yeah.
it. Well, it was not, because Jersey is different than Virginia. Virginia is different than Minnesota. Minnesota is different than California. And
Yes.
those are the states that I live in,
Yeah.
plus the other states that I visit. And I was like, oh. And then in my mind, from what I knew, as you said, you only could analyze through what you know.
Yeah.
I started looking at United States as Europe. Like every state is a different country,
Yeah.
even though they speak the same language,
Yeah.
or
Sort of.
maybe not, because if I go in the South, it just feels like it's a different language.
Yeah.
Even though they live, right? They live differently. It's a different culture. So I found it, I'm okay with contradicting that theory. Like, you don't need to go somewhere to find yourself, and just say, hey, go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's going to give you a different contrast. It's going to give you a different, just contrast, really, right?
Yeah. Well, and it leads me to like, because I know a good portion of your story, reading your book and loving it and watching, like your book shows your evolution and what your interests, like the time you were using your creativity to learn English at one point, and then to start a business at one point, and then to write a book at one point. So like our creativity evolves with us too. And I wonder like what your experience has been with that of, because same thing, New Jersey, Virginia, Minnesota, like each place activates something different in you. I could say that I'm a full-time nomad, and when I travel the country, I'm way differently inspired in the mountains of Colorado than I am at the beach of California, than I am in the the
Yes.
lush green trees of Indiana, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Different energy. And look, full disclosure, yes, it's evolving, and I've been evolving, and it's been phenomenal. And I'm here today to say that with every step moving forward, I keep discover how much I'm still hiding,
Yeah.
how much I'm still not allowing full of me, the full authentic me coming through. And what I'm here into, like really holding a space for a bare lifestyle and say the
Yes.
damn thing, is as deeper I go into this, I discover more and more of me. And that, all of that is creativity.
Yes.
All of that is like my own personal way of seeing things, or how I want to do things. And
Mhm.
I'm called more and more to tap into that, and to be brave
Mhm.
for a minute,
Yes.
to go in that direction. So I truly believe that you only have to access the courage for a minute, to take the step. And then when you're in it, you're gonna figure out the damn thing.
Yes. I love that you brought in courage and bravery, because we are all creative and we don't all express it. Right?
Mhm.
I think men probably face this much more, because we as women, we have more permission to be emotional, expressive, use our language, use our words. And men are, still culturally, I am speaking very, American or Western, let's say, oh, and you know what? Actually, that's not even true, because I speak with a lot of European or different cultures, and still the men are expected to be stern or
Yeah.
strong, and hold your emotions and don't act that way, or and that it'd be weak to be expressed. And so, that creativity is expression, and in many cultures men are, faced with different obstacles than women in general. But there was one other thing that you had said that I thought was really important, which is exhausting your energy.
Mhm.
One, we are tapped into an ocean of energy, but our human bodies can only open so wide to channel so much energy at once. So if you're taking on 9 projects, you probably are only calibrated to energy for like 3 to 5 projects. So if I'm, in a podcast season, I might not be writing a book, or I only take on one book at a time, or the van build. When I started the van build, that's exhausting a lot of energy because I'm learning a new skill. I'm also learning Spanish. I had to slow down my Spanish lessons to amp up the van build. So we have to really, this is a self-study at some
Mhm.
point, is like, what is my capacity?
I love that so much. And it's so important in business
Yes.
where like I'm here, like calling myself a multi-passionate person, right? Multi-passionate person. And how much I could still to the day judge myself every now and then of like, oh, you dropped the ball on Instagram. Oh, you're not consistent in there. But it's like, it's what you say, it's honoring, like, wait, I'm in a writing mode. I've been writing like crazy for the past month, right? And then that alone is like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do with all this? I was talking with one of my coaches and I'm like, I don't know what to do with all this. And it's like, I really don't have the energy, not that I have the interest to start publishing another book just yet, or at this moment, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was like, well, maybe you could just send it to your email or post it on media. Like, obviously you have things to say. Who
Yep.
says that that's the way you have to say it? And all of that is just, oh, what am I doing? Oh, I try to follow all the rules.
Yeah.
Because a book has been downloaded to you and then you're supposed to put it together and make the covers and do the things and get the editor, get the publisher. But no, I don't have to. I don't have to. And the Instagram could wait until I get to the Instagram. And when I'm there. Because like, algorithms of social media, like, do I want to live my life to follow the algorithm of Facebook, or do I want to live my life by following what feels good and what doesn't?
Yes. I think
How do you work with that?
that's perfect, that you, like, right where you were is you go, it's the inward algorithm, right? It's you and your drive, because so many people have such good intentions and they want to crack the code on social media and win that game. But I'm going to tell you what, you're not going to win anything if you're drained. If you're just trying to keep up or do the logistics right, you're not coming with the energy of embodiment, of confidence, of knowing. Because like half of my posts are posted at 1 a.m. when I'm jamming out. I jam out from 10 p.m. to 2, 3 a.m., and that's my business hours. And it's taken years of self-acceptance too. So this is a
Yeah.
conversation about
Yeah.
self-acceptance, but that it's okay to go with my flow of energy. I used to make myself so wrong that I wanted to sleep in till 10 and 11 a.m. because that's not the societal norm of success. If you're successful, you're up at 5 a.m. and you do more than everybody at 8 a.m. It's like, really? Is that because if I lived to operate like that, I would be so drained, so angry, so resentful that I have to function like someone says I do. And so it's listening inward. Your heart knows the way, your gut knows the way, spirit, you're channeling, you're listening, you're tapping in all the time. But it's a matter of how tuned in you are. And if you do tune in, then you know what's right for you. And that's going to take off because that has that creative and natural and authentic momentum.
Mm. And that goes into living your bear lifestyle when like the authenticity, right? The A stands for authenticity. And we can't call ourselves authentic when we are like so vigilantly just following everybody's rules. I'm like, I'm just giving you a distortion version of somebody else.
Yep. And directly with bear, it's like strip all that off.
Yeah.
Strip it away, get naked, because that's where you are.
And that's where I am.
Me too.
It's so interesting though, because I know you and me both, and so many others, they're listening to this. It's like we're in a space where we've done so much work into allowing ourselves to be who we are, and take the steps into going after our dreams. That only I could see my dream, and nobody else could understand it or get it.
Yep.
And yet every time we take a step, it's like, oh, and it's this damn thing that I need to let go of, and it's this damn thing that is showing up again, right? And putting those limits, like I'm right here in it, putting myself another new, while I don't have deadlines in my life anymore, I'm still creating them. Kind of transparent, but they're there. Like now, I know that I'm gonna be living here in the end of August, and I'm like, okay, so after that, I get to.
Yeah.
Now I have to do these things. And now I'm laughing because I'm like, it's not a belief anymore, but the habit is still there.
Yep. You go ahead.
So I was curious to ask you, like, how one could use their own personal creativity in this space.
Yeah.
But it's not a belief anymore, right? But still found ourselves behaving like
yes,
we are a scared little girl, and totally we are not.
Yeah. Well, it's so brilliant because over the course of years, it's like if you were physically training to be a marathon runner, right? Like it's a muscle memory. You at some point you've reached a new baseline of strength. And so our faith, the strength of our faith is different. It might be mysterious. In fact, the farther you go, the more mysterious it gets and the more you have to surrender. So you are operating on faith, right? And I will tell you, if I, in the first like 1 and 2 and even 3 years of my business, if I listened to people's feedback, I'd have quit a long time ago because people can't see what I see in my head. So when I explain it, they're like, that's too complicated, or I can't even track what you're saying. They can't see my vision. So creatively hold the vision. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. That's, it might sound like the cheeky quote, but if you can see it, it will manifest. But you're the only one who can manifest it because you're the only one who can see it. Even if you can explain it impeccably to people, they can't always pick up on what you're saying. And so they have to see to believe. Don't be that person. Don't be that person, because then in fact, the only thing you'll have is what you see there. And that's not where the magic lies. That's not where manifestation lies, or creativity, right?
Yeah.
And let me correct myself, because we're always manifesting, but the progress that you wish to see, right? The evolution doesn't come in until you are willing to believe something that's unseen so far. And that's called imagination.
Yeah. And the faith ties into it so beautifully. I love that, because as I'm here to say that, as I'm no longer, like, oh, I have to see it to believe it. Every now and then I'm looking back to collect my evidences, my own personal proofs of, oh, I actually speak that into the reality without even know it happened, and it makes no sense. And my brain still want to, like, how the hell that happened? And I'm like, I don't know. And all the interviews, like, how did you do that? Like, I really don't have an answer.
Yeah.
I cannot explain it to you. I don't have a process. I don't have a system to say, do this, and that. And it always gets me when I see those little marketing things, and I have it too in my business, the art of. Yeah. Right? The art of speaking, the art of writing, the art of creating a course, the art of. And we are missing the most important thing in there, that little word, art.
Yeah. We skip right over it.
We skip right over it. Where the mind goes like, oh, I'm gonna learn the magical steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, done, boom, success, millionaire. But the word there, it's art, meaning creativity, meaning we could go and do the same damn thing and the results would be different because we are two different people.
Yes.
And that's where it sucks. And that's where it takes fate. When you look left and right, I'm like, how the hell we are doing the same things, and oh, they're way ahead of me. So how do we get here?
How do we get truthfully?
We get here because we allow ourselves to, like, keep on going with what's coming through, right? And that's what the life is about, really. Yeah. Isn't that the freedom that we are all looking for? Can I say all? Yeah, I did. I am. I will.
Yeah.
We're all looking for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's very interesting because we all have a vision, in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't have to be, mine doesn't have to match yours. I remember a client telling me, she's like, I don't know if life coaching is for me because I don't have some $1 million goal. And I'm like, girl, what's your goal? Because that's what you're going to go for. That's the gap you're going to close. And so big or small, because I know you and we have this global impact mind and heart to do that. And not everybody listening will have that. And it doesn't make it any better, worse, or different. And I think that's the same with the way people minimize their creativity. Oh, I'm not a singer or an actor or an artist. And so boo-hoo. No, creative problem solving is what the world needs. It's how we're going to evolve and how we're going to harmonize is by you contributing your creative energy to the world. And we can solve a lot of what we struggle with. And think about whose creativity is going to solve world hunger, right? And poverty and struggle and whatever else. And so I think everybody needs to tap into that part of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the bravery there is to have that idea and don't find any system that your idea fits in.
Yeah.
Because if you find the system that your idea fits in, it's not a novelty. It's not a creative idea that is going to create something else. I mean, there's somebody else already have it, already try it, already create a system, and we already have the results for that.
Yeah. Yep.
So for me personal, that's what excites me and scares me the most.
Yeah.
When I got this thing like, oh God, am I gonna do this damn thing? And it's like, I can't even explain it. And it's just like, there is like half a handful of people that I dare to talk with about it.
Yeah.
And feels a little lonely though.
I think that's a very important piece that you bring up, because how many people do hide out about their dream, their vision, their creative.
I do hide my dream for most of the people in my life.
I had to learn to. Yeah, I had to learn to, because I'm this like over optimistic Pollyanna, like I'm gonna do this, and everybody's like, that's really hard and you can't, and I'm like,
and it's crazy and it's impossible. Right.
So I had to actually learn who do I actually share this with? Who do I talk to about it? Because it could be very easy for me to just keep it all to myself, because I don't want to experience the pain of ridicule or rejection or people's doubt. So I had to become much more specific about who I would share with. And I'm a huge proponent for people having a coach, having professional support. So I share with my coaches, I share with my mentors, I share with my colleagues, especially if it's something that's going to challenge a societal norm or the general belief about what's possible.
Yes. And then we are here. And this is, there's a handful of people that they are daring to talk about it, really, to be bare about all the topics. But the intention is not like, oh my God, I'm going to get 10 million likes and it's going to go viral. And universe, I'm not against that. Please let it happen. I'm
open to that.
And the intention is different. It's just one person. One person needed to hear this. One person needed to hear what you said 30 minutes ago. And that's how we created an impact, and it was worth it. So I don't know what the algorithm is. I don't know how many downloads need to be done in order to this, so we could that. Because that's not what I want to do with my life. And it took me 4 freaking years to let go of that.
Yeah.
And there is still some residue. There is still some residue of like, judging through the looks, judging through the financial situation, judging through living situation, judging through all the shit that we learn on our life.
Yeah.
So, oh my God, I have so many questions. I feel like I just opened another thing. We'll be back, people. We'll be back. Promise. Do you promise? I promise.
I promise.
I just want to take a few more minutes to have you stress sexy strategy of not allowing our creativity to come through our work, and we just release it through sex.
Yeah. Yes. I'm so glad I have a note here about that. So thank you that it came back. I have a series on my podcast called the Sex and Intimacy series. So it's the Hearts Unleashed podcast with the Sex and Intimacy series. And
it's in the description. So click the link.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. The reason I want to share that is because there's the first episode of that series is called My Sexual History. And I want to give a little snippet of that because in my growing up, I was always highly sexual. Like I remember being attracted to boys in like kindergarten and first grade. And I thought that was weird because I don't remember people talking about that stuff at that age. And, I was curious about those things. And I've not, and I share in that episode, like I've not faced sexual trauma. I don't have sexual trauma, but I always wondered, why am I so sexually minded? And that manifested in my youth and in high school and college and thereafter. And it actually stemmed from me believing I was unlovable. There was more of that. And so the note I have here is sex is not love. Love is not sex. Sex is a physical activity that you can do, right? And so when we collapse our creative energy with sex, when we collapse love with sex, when, and I love sex. I love good sex as much as the next person. And I had to distinguish, am I being sexual for that reason? Or am I filling a void? Or am I not creatively expressed? And, if I'm not creating, that sexual drive will come up and it's almost distracting. Like I could make out with a stranger at that point. Like, you know what I mean? And it's not what I'd like to do. It's not totally constructive. And so I went through a time of my life where I chose celibacy, specifically because I am very committed to self-mastery. I want to be wizard level, sorceress level of how to use energy and move energy. And so again, I love sex and it has its place. I'm much more committed to my impact in the world than the hit of sex, because it could be very drug like to say, okay, it's validating, right? And so when we're down on ourselves, when I would be down on myself, I could go get a boyfriend and feel, oh, I'm lovable, or, I'm effective, or my work in the world is important. And I was really just masking it with the feeling of validation. And so when we're suppressing our creative energy, it's very tempting to express that same energy sexually. And I'm not discouraging anybody from having a sexually active life because I love it. However, what energy are you moving and it for what purpose? So that's where I'd love to turn it back over to you to see what landed from that. But that's a little bit of my own history. And then I work with a lot of people, some people who have felt like they're sex addicts or whatever. And then a lot of creatives who haven't learned how to channel it. So
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that about you. I'll be the first to listen to those episodes. And again, I'm inspired to talk more about my history because for those of you that read the book, the big component there is waking up in the morning, realize that I was a victim of human trafficking.
Yeah.
And yet it's been 1.5 years since I published the book and I never talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought that most of parts would have been healed before I even published the book. But after I published and with that level of visibility, I realized that this is the component that I don't want to talk about it just yet.
Yeah.
And I think this bare experience of the work that I do around sex and sexuality and sensuality and me dating in a different space with a different mindset and with different beliefs, I'm aware that this is my journey to take me to that whatever piece is missing to make everything click.
Yeah.
And I love how I'm just loving and appreciating different perspectives. I feel like that's how we could really become rich living this life, right? And for me personal, just in this dating space, and I shared throughout the few episodes, so I'm not going to do all that in here, is to allow myself to, I thought I just want to have good sex and be confident enough to ask for what I want. And if I'm not getting, just walk away, which is great. I love to live my life like that. And it's who I am. And then I thought that I realized that I am not emotional available, as I judge people, they're not emotional available, and got myself a sexual partner, just being a erotic relationship and really experience that. And I like that you say it's an activity. And then I doubt myself, like, oh, am I not able to love another human anymore? Isn't this a trust issue after 3 marriages and 2 divorces and whatever, like all the pieces? And I'm like, no, I'm 100% emotional available, and I can walk with both.
Yes.
I know how to, I finally love myself. Yeah. That I don't need somebody to give me an orgasm in order for me to feel lovable. So I love myself with no having sex for months, as I love myself with having sex for hours and have multiple orgasms. It's just 2 different spaces. Yes. So I will say, though, that I didn't look specifically how that influence or not my creative process. So thank you for that. Now it's in my awareness. Good. Yes. And it will be interesting to see. And I want to invite everybody from our audience to just kind of, like all areas of our life, like whatever, filling the void, as you say, or celebrating some successes is just going to show up differently in a different area of life. And I think that's what the brilliant work is, when we actually identify our pattern and connect the connection between them. And when we have that, that's when we're like, I know who the hell I am, and nobody could hurt my feelings. I know how I function. Yes. And we're speaking at a level of self-mastery. Yeah. Ultimate, like radical responsibility, right? Because a lot of us are operating unconsciously in our sexual lives, and even in business, career, and relationship. And so when we take that radical responsibility, we can be highly sexual and highly creative. And then you have to recognize, when am I tapping myself out, right? And all of those things. And so it's just different places to look, because the answer, it's the same as you said about creativity. There's this societal thing that we're taught, and then if we never look for the individual answer. And so it's likely that you have an individual setup and you haven't explored it enough, and you've only been told about it or taught about it, so you don't have your own conclusions. And that's where the breakthroughs happen. Yeah. Oh my God. It just reminds me, like a couple of years ago, with a partner, we were like visiting the Medici Casa in Florence, Italy. And I love art. I don't know artists and the things, and like, I don't know anything about that. I just love staring at a piece of art and allow myself to receive whatever the hell I need to receive. And I was so annoyed, because he was someone who want to read about it. And I was like walking around with my personal guide, right? Like, this is the artist, and that's the year that it's been created, and this is the paint that they use, and this is what they inspire me. I would be like, just shut up. Like, I don't want to know. Because like, without even knowing, I was like, I don't need anybody to influence my perception. Yes. And I just want to sit here for hours and nobody talk with me, so I could take this in. I love it. Can I tell you how I'm that way, which is when I am not very detail oriented. So like when it's specifically about going to an event or a place, and like, if I'm going with a partner or a family member and they're like, where is it? I don't know. When is it? I don't know. Who's going to be there? I don't know. What's the dress code? I don't know. I'm going to, like, I know when to be there and where it's at. And I'll look it up the day of, like, when I get in the car to leave is when I look for the address. Like, that's it. Yeah.
And so it's like, cause I'm going to go and I'm going to be me no matter what's happening or who's there. And so it's like the same thing is I'm not going to spend any extra thought energy arriving or like, it's just in my nature and it goes well, it works well for me, but it doesn't work well for everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
And
a,
that's it though, to just for me, I can't speak for everyone.
yeah,
It's like finally let it go. Like as I've been so proud of being disciplined and planning and organized and ta-da-da, to let go and say, you know what? I don't need all that. All that is so freaking exhausted. I didn't even realize how stressful and exhausted I was all my life just by being so disciplined and organized. And now
yes.
let it all go and actually be present.
Yeah.
And like with traveling, that's the best. I'm like, give me the ticket, book the Airbnb, let me go.
Yep.
Or who's there? Well, what's the temperature? What's like, I don't care. I won't control the weather.
Yeah.
Nothing will change if I know what temperature will be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there is no guarantee that that will be the degrees that's going to wait for me when I land there.
Yeah.
So unnecessary conversation.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
So all that being said, and to close here, is not, there's so many components, like understanding our creativity, how we work with our creativity, what we put into the world, how do we deliver our creativity, and also the last piece that we kind of referred to for the past few minutes is how do we receive creativity from others. And all of that are probably equally important. There is no one more important than the other one.
Right.
And it's a dance, and we're just gonna close with what the beginning you said is like, allow it to evolve with us as we evolve.
Yeah.
Allow it or not, they're gonna evolve with us. But
Yeah.
if we don't allow it, we're just gonna make our life difficult, and there is no reason to.
Agreed.
So I will have you close us up for today. If you have a final message for this episode only, because you'll be back, for our audience.
Yeah, it's just that look inward, because you know you best. And no matter what anybody else has to say about that, you know you best. And so I just really want to encourage people to look and listen inward and honor what you hear. Cheers.
Yes, thank you. Celebrating everyone. Thank you, Abigail.
Thank you. It's good to be here. Good to be back. See you soon.
See you next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I would love to hear from you. What inspired you? What triggered you? And what interests you? Please join the conversation by leaving your comments and your insights. Explore more about their experience at simonaspark.com/bear. I hope you listen, follow, rate, and review all of our episodes. I can't wait to have you back. Till then, be Bear. Beautiful, authentic, real, and ever evolving.